President Trump tends to get heat from the left no matter what he does. If he's working, he's doing something they don't like, and if he's celebrating, he's probably offending someone who doesn't like the holiday. Fortunately for the haters though, he's in office and no matter how hard they try, it doesn't look like they'll be able to do anything about it. The president seems to get an especially large amount of grief for visiting his own home in Florida when time permits. His visit to his own estates in Mar-a-Lago should serve as a reminder that the president isn't taking any money out of America's pockets. He's self-sufficient, and only working in his current position to serve Americans. That seems to be exactly what Florida supporters were thinking of when they rallied on the streets in anticipation of the president's arrival. The streets where the president was traveling were flanked by loving supporters who wanted to let the president know that despite his many enemies, he has many supporters as well. Their gesture didn't go unnoticed either. The supporters were out en masse, holding signs supporting the president's pet projects, whipping up support for him when the president himself saw them. What they expected would just end up being a wave and a nod to show acknowledgement of their moral support ended up being a lot more. After the president made it to his winter White House, and before he started celebrating, the Palm Beach Post reports that about 20 minutes after the motorcade passed, two white vans returned and a man emerged with an invitation for the supporters to meet the president. About 20 minutes after President Trump's motorcade passed over of the Southern Bridge on its way back to Mar-a-Lago after golf on Saturday, a white van stopped near a group of supporters. A man stepped out with an invitation that stunned the devoted sign-waving crowd. "The president would like to meet with you at Mar-a-Lago." "It stunned me," said Mike Sims, of West Palm Beach. "I didn't know what to think." 16 supporters piled into two white vans for a short drive across the bridge to the president's private club. "No one expected the 90-minute visit to the president's winter White House. I was wearing baggy pants," bemoaned one supporter of the sudden invite, and the photo she had taken with Trump. The group went through the usual security sweep by the Secret Service and then met with the president, who was still in his golf clothes and shoes. He shook hands with the group near the pool and posed with each for photos. A White House photographer also shot pictures. The president gave a short history of Mar-a-Lago, built in the 1920s by serial heiress Marjorie Mary Weatherpost, and gave each a magazine about the estate. Trump bought the dilapidated estate in 1985 and restored it. In 1995 he opened Mar-a-Lago as a private club, which now has about 500 members. Today, Mar-a-Lago has a spa, tennis courts, 2 pools, putting greens, several dining areas and bedrooms that are available only to members and their guests. After the meet, greet and photo op, Trump asked his aides to show the group into his living room to see the Christmas tree, and outside, to view the helicopter. They were then invited into the ballroom for snacks, meatballs, watermelon, pigs in a blanket, spring rolls, thick chocolate chip cookies, iced tea and water. Sims especially liked the water. "It was a regular water bottle except it didn't say Zephyrhills. It said Trump," said Sims, who grabbed one as a souvenir. "Sick. It was just a fabulous experience. I will never forget it." Saturday's impromptu visit was not the first. On March 18, 7 Trump supporters who cheered the president as his motorcade passed were also invited to the estate. A day later, on his way out of town, the president stopped his motorcade and got out of his armored SUV to swiftly greet supporters. Donald Tarka Jr. of Boynton Beach said the group was invited not because we are famous or big donors but because we are members of a group called the Trump Squad, a group of supporters who faithfully gather at the west end of the Southern Boulevard Bridge to greet the president. "Our motto is, see you at the bridge." Tarka was at the bridge again on Sunday afternoon, waiting with the rest of the squad for the president to return from his golf club in West Palm Beach. "It was such an honor, a day to all us deplorables we will never forget," Tarka said. "We the people do matter." Many people considered President Trump's predecessor to be unqualified for the office of president because his citizenship was doubtful. However, what we should have been worried about the qualification of loving America. Obama made it clear time and again that he had disdain for American values and the people that held them. President Trump couldn't be any more different, and he demonstrates it at times like this. Americans once again have a president that they can be proud of because he is proud of us, and that's how it should be. HT, The Palm Beach Post. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily. We have no tolerance for comments containing violence, racism, vulgarity, profanity, all caps, or discourteous behavior. Thank you for partnering with us to maintain a courteous and useful public environment where we can engage in reasonable discourse. It's common knowledge that when you put good in, you get good out. That's true on many levels, but none so literal as with what we put in our bodies. We were designed to survive and thrive off of what the earth provides for us, but the production of those life-giving substances has turned into such a finely tuned machine that prioritizes profit and taste, that we've lost a lot of what was good for us along the way. One of the biggest steps backward for the health of the Western world was the introduction of GMO foods, or any food that is genetically modified in order to live, even with poison sprayed on them. The purpose of this is to keep the food growing when the plants are sprayed for bugs, weeds, etc. Unfortunately, that means that things like Roundup are actually being put into our foods so that they'll be immune to being sprayed with it. As you can imagine, that's not great for your system. McDonald's Corporation is the largest dealer of GMOs, according to your news wire, and according to recent reports, the Golden Arches have been seeing less green pass through them because of this information. The national awareness that GMOs could be contributing to the bad health of this generation is finally affecting the fast food superstars' bottom line. In fact, what is being served by the once beloved clown and his coworkers is hardly even being regarded as food anymore. McDonald's recently launched a PR campaign called Our Food, Your Questions to reassure customers that their frankenfoods are safe for human consumption. Unfortunately for McDonald's, their campaign backfired spectacularly. While the company still denies they use pink slime in their burgers, they were forced to admit using some highly questionable ingredients that would be more at home in a science experiment than on the dinner plate of a growing child. During the Our Food, Your Questions campaign, McDonald's admitted to using the chemical additive azodicarbonamide in their burger buns, which is the exact same substance found in yoga mats. Naturally, the world's leading frankenfoods dealer insisted that adding rubber to food is quite safe. According to McDonald's, there are varied uses for azodicarbonamide, including in some non-food products, such as yoga mats. As a result, some people have suggested our food contains rubber or plastic, or that the ingredient is unsafe. Think of salt. The salt you use in your food at home is a variation of the salt you may use to de-ice your sidewalk. The same is true of Ada. It can be used in different ways. I guess that was supposed to make us feel better, but there really is a slight flaw in that logic. Just because food products can be used in an industrial capacity, doesn't mean that industrial products should be used in a food-type capacity. You want to salt the front steps with Morton salt? Fine, just don't put a yoga mat in my rock salt grinder, as one being okay doesn't make the other okay. These revelations are having far-reaching impacts on the take-home pay for the corporation. AP reports that stores are closing nationwide, and profit margins are slimming down, unlike the waistlines of those who eat their food. According to an Associated Press review of the corporation's regulatory filings, McDonald's closed over 700 stores last year and suffered an 11% decrease in revenue and 30% drop in profit. For corporations the size of McDonald's, operating on slim profit margins, falls in profit of 2 to 3% can have enormous ramifications. 30%? We are talking irreversible terminal decline, according to industry experts. But maybe you think that there's to be some margin for error. Maybe the oddly shaped and pressed meat products should be a red flag, but we can stick with the pure, natural, one-ingredient foods like French fries. We can all make French fries. It's just potatoes, salt, and frying oil. Maybe that's how you make French fries, but that's not how Mickey D's makes them. French fries are actually comprised of 19 shocking ingredients. The staple side dish is basically a laboratory experiment in creating an item that looks and tastes like a potato product but is actually a chemically engineered concoction of GMOs, trans fats, chemical stabilizers, preservatives, wheat, milk, and beef derivatives, as well as poisonous additives derived from petroleum and silicone. Future generations will look back at McDonald's with horror. They will be astonished that the multinational corporation was allowed by the FDA to perform what is essentially a sick and twisted science experiment on the world's population, damaging the health of millions of unsuspecting people in the process. McDonald's aimed their advertising squarely at children and adolescents, trying to hook them on their chemical-laden addictive products while they are young and vulnerable, and all in the name of profit over all else. May we learn the error of our ways sooner rather than later and save our collective health while we still can. The honest truth is that you'd probably be better off to eat cane sugar out of the bag standing over the sink than to feel happy eating a happy meal. McDonald's had its time, and that is now past. Make the decision that is best for your health and drive past the drive-thru and on to the farmer's market, or even the meat market, or anywhere that doesn't serve GMOs and slime. HT, your news wire, the truth is out. This is huge. What is the statute of limitations on someone's ineligibility to be the President of the United States? It's not an issue that comes up very often, but senatorial candidate Sheriff Joe Arpaio wants to find out. Sadly, there is still doubt as to whether former President Obama should have been qualified to run for president and rule the country for 8 years. Even though Obama is no longer in office, there's still crusaders for justice like Sheriff Arpaio who aren't ready to give it up. If Obama pulled the wool over our eyes, then he needs to be prosecuted for that grievous offense. Obama probably didn't consider Arpaio to be much of a threat considering the trumped-up discrimination charges that were laid on him when he effectively did his job. A new day has dawned on the Trump administration. Not only has Arpaio been pardoned, but he's planning to run for United States Senate. Obama is at the top of his problem list. Daily Mail reports that Arpaio is not quite as harmless as Obama might have wished. Not only is he pursuing the issue post-pardon, but he claims to have the evidence that he needs. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Joe Arpaio rebooted the anti-Obama birther movement on Wednesday, renewing his claim that the former president's birth certificate is a phony document. No doubt about it, we have the evidence, the former Arizona sheriff said on CNN. The Republican is running for the Senate seat being vacated by Sen. Jeff Flake. Arpaio was a staunch supporter of President Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign, and Trump showed his gratitude by pardoning him in August following a contempt of court conviction. Like many of the things that are important to Americans, this isn't just a campaign issue for President Trump, and this is something that he and many of us were worried about well before it became about the 2016 election. Trump himself was an early proponent of the birther movement, tweeting nearly 70 times about his suspicion that the long-form birth certificate produced by Obama was fraudulent. 3 months before Obama's 2012 re-election, he tweeted, "An extremely credible source has called my office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud." Late in the 2016 campaign, Trump disavowed his earlier beliefs. But Arpaio told CNN that the president was right the first time around. "We have the evidence," Arpaio said, while declining to provide details. "Nobody will talk about it, nobody will look at it, and anytime you want to come down, or anybody, we'll be glad to show you the evidence." Back in 2012, well before President Trump was in the running for president, here's what he had to say about the Obama birthplace scandal. Host Chris Cuomo pressed Arpaio, "So you believe that President Obama's birth certificate is a phony?" "No doubt about it," Arpaio said. Obama's birth certificate, which his campaign produced in response to Trump's years-long badgering, shows he was born in Hawaii. Birther advocates seized on a book proposal from Obama's days as a young community organizer, which said he was born in Kenya. If that had been true, Obama would have been constitutionally ineligible to serve as President of the United States. As Sheriff of Maricopa County, Arizona, Arpaio launched an effort in 2011 to prove that Obama was born outside the U.S., in what his critics called a shameless, sick attempt to raise money for his re-election effort. He closed his investigation in 2016 without being able to prove what he set out to establish. Arpaio had been fixated on the investigation for years, even a deputy and member of his volunteer posse to Hawaii to question officials. In 2016, he complained to a crowd of about 75 supporters that his claims about the birth certificate weren't taken seriously. "We and anyone else who dared to question the document have been maligned, falsely labeled and grossly criticized," he said then, refusing to take questions from reporters. Dubbed America's toughest sheriff, Arpaio was best known for running a tent-city jail in Arizona's populous Maricopa County, and for targeting suspected illegal immigrants for arrest. He tweeted, "I am running for the U.S. Senate from the great state of Arizona, for one unwavering reason, to support the agenda and policies of President Donald Trump in his mission to make America great again. No matter what your political affiliation, you should be interested in the President of the United States being constitutionally qualified for the job. If someone intentionally tries to circumvent the Constitution while lying to the American people about it, then that is problematic on many levels." Sheriff Joe is hopeful that he can make Obama pay. Is guilty of creating a false birth certificate, then that it will deter anyone else with the same illegal ambition. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily. Someone hand her a tissue. This is what happens when you are a United States Senator but should instead be running the weekly bingo event at a senior care facility. In what is being labeled as more shenanigans from the Democratic Party, the anti-Second Amendment Senator Dianne Feinstein of California appeared to blame a bad cold for the controversial way she handled the unlawful release of an interview transcript with the co-founder of the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier, Fusion GPS. The California senator and top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee caused quite a mess when committee chairman Chuck Grassley, R. Iowa, found out she had released this transcript earlier this week without consulting and getting the approval from him first. In a later interview, Senator Feinstein confirmed to a reporter that she regrets not speaking to Grassley beforehand. And of all things, she blamed her cold as a possible factor for her misdeed. She went on to say that the one regret she had was that she should have spoken with Senator Grassley before releasing the transcripts, and that she makes no excuse but only that she had a bad cold that maybe slowed down her mental facilities a little bit. Fox News reports, Trump blasts sneaky Dianne Feinstein for releasing Fusion GPS transcript. President Trump slammed sneaky Dianne Feinstein Wednesday after the Democratic senator released the transcript of a congressional interview with the co-founder of the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier, claiming the move was possibly illegal. The fact that sneaky Dianne Feinstein, who has on numerous occasions stated that collusion between Trump, Russia has not been found, would release testimony in such an underhanded and possibly illegal way, totally without authorization, is a disgrace. Must have tough primary, Trump tweeted Wednesday. Feinstein, D. Califf, the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee, unilaterally released the 312-page transcript of Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson's August interview with committee investigators. The release provoked controversy on Capitol Hill, with a spokesman for committee chairman Chuck Grassley, R. Iowa, slamming Feinstein's move as confounding. Spokesman Taylor Foy said she made the decision without consulting the chairman and warned the move jeopardized other highly sought witness testimony. Feinstein unilaterally releases transcript of Glenn Simpson on Trump dossier. Feinstein, who faces re-election this year, said she released the transcript because the American people deserve the opportunity to see what he said and judge for themselves. Moments after Trump slammed Feinstein, he then returned to bashing the ongoing Russia investigation. The single greatest witch hunt in American history continues. There was no collusion. Everybody, including the Democrats, knows there was no collusion, but yet on and on it goes. Russia and the world are laughing at the stupidity they're witnessing. Republicans should finally take control, Trump tweeted. The president's tweets come as his lawyers prepare for the possibility that special counsel Robert Mueller's team will ask to conduct an interview with Trump himself as part of the Russia probe. At this point, there has been no official request by Mueller's office to interview the president. It is possible an interview will not take place. Trump's lawyers consider possible interview of president by Mueller team, but Feinstein's release of the testimony drew attention back to all things Russia. The hundreds of pages of Simpson's responses were rich with revelations about Fusion GPS, its work and its investigation into Trump, which began in September 2015. One passage, in particular, drew heavy attention, where Simpson's lawyer claimed someone had been killed over the dossier's publication. He wants to be very careful to protect his sources, Simpson's attorney Josh Levy said during the August 22 committee interview. Somebody's already been killed as a result of the publication of this dossier, and no harm should come to anybody related to this honest work. Somebody's already been killed because of the dossier, Fusion GPS rep revealed. Levy did not elaborate on who was killed, and congressional investigators did not follow up with any questions about his claim. Neither a spokesperson for Grassley nor Feinstein responded to Fox News' request for comment on why investigators did not follow up with questions on the serious charge made by Levy. The dossier was written by former British MI6 agent Christopher Steele. Fusion GPS, which hired Steele, was funded by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. The findings eventually made their way to the FBI. The dossier was published on BuzzFeed News in January 2017. The fact that sneaky Dianne Feinstein, who has on numerous occasions stated that collusion between Trump, Russia has not been found, would release testimony in such an underhanded and possibly illegal way, totally without authorization, is a disgrace. Must have tough primary, Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump, January 10, 2018. What is this? A sitting United States senator is blaming a cold for breaking the law by releasing a document which should have stayed confidential, at least for the time being. This woman should be committed. How many of us can make a huge mistake like this in our job or business and still have our jobs? This woman should do the correct thing and resign. It's apparent she should be nowhere near any position of power. This woman should have retired from public office 20 years ago. Please share if you agree Senator Feinstein should resign immediately. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily.